26, and I'm feeling good about it. Lots of stuff to get done, but honestly, it doesn't matter. It's the same old every day, so we're just gonna get right to it. Honestly, I'm gonna try to hit close to 200K today, because we have 4 days of this challenge left, so we really gotta get in there. I'm right on the cusp. I'm right on the cusp of 50K, so we're getting there. Yeah, but that's it for now. Just getting some coffee. I'll show you the word count any minute now, and then I'll just switch to the final word count of what I got done. I'm gonna try to get everything done by 12, so yeah, see you in a minute. I wrote like 2 sentences, but this is where we're starting essentially. We did it. 1706 words, and it's only 11:42. So right here, I'll show you for good old proof. There we have it. 11:42 a.m. 1706. We're so close to 200K, like I wanted. So hey, we're there. So yeah, fun. I actually, this whole series so far, I've been very minimal with my use of like religion, of like the fictional religion in this story, because I didn't think it was extremely useful. Because yeah, it did actually tie to the main plot. So the religion is important, but not necessarily all the facets of it, like not the specifics. It was mostly the gods, the kind of main god that also exists, that kind of stuff that deals with the gods. So there's like deities, there's demons, and now the demons aren't actually bad, the connotations there, but they're actually meant to like look over certain elements or parts of like, you know, life on the planet. There's kind of like not an antichrist, but like a Lucifer figure in a way also. There's plenty of stuff like that, but it's actually not very, like, I've never gone into specifics, especially with like just how the religion is practiced generally, because the main character actually isn't very religious at all, and that ties into his character in general. So because we see through his eyes, we don't get to learn all that much from him. But now actually one of the main secondary characters, who is very close friends with the main character, is super religious now for many reasons. Now he's one of the characters that has changed a lot. He was like Epic, didn't really care for religion all that much, but now I'm actually adding these little pieces of religion, and he's kind of becoming a saint in a way, you know. And so he's kind of like God's warrior. So he's really cool, and he's changed more than I thought he would. I actually thought he'd be generally the same from beginning to end. I didn't really have a major character arc for him, except for the fact that like something that he wanted to happen would eventually happen to him. But actually now I'm withdrawing that idea, and I'm completely changing his character arc, which complements the story a lot further and creates a kind of juxtaposition between the characters. So that's what religion's good for. That's what religion's good for, especially fictional religion. Like coming up with your own thing is really interesting. So I'm having a lot of fun with it. You know, I did study like the Abrahamic religions a little bit, the main 3. I guess the only 3, I don't know, but there's this really cool video I watched about the differences between them, and so it kind of spoke about the main differences in like the big subjects when it comes to religion. So I kind of modeled that to my own religion. It's not Abrahamic really, because they have a small pantheon of gods and deities, which trickles down. And now deities actually come from like humans. They are humans that were transformed into deities by gods as a price for something, right? So a lot of that's a big theme in the story, just like trade-offs, you know, making bargains, prices, you know, everything has a price. So that's what I'm really focusing on with that. But yeah, the religion aspect is really getting interesting in my opinion. I generally I generally don't really go into it, but in my sci-fi series, religion is actually a really big part um, of certain subplots. So at least it goes into certain things. It's actually a big part of the backstory of the world and the world building. So of course, religion's always great for world building, but religion can be used for character building as well. And now this might sound obvious to some, might not sound obvious to others, but it's a really big. Um, there's a really big difference between how it impacts plot and character. I think I think one isn't more important than the other, but that's the whole thing. It can impact every aspect of story, right? You know, not just the plot, but the theme. Obviously, the themes are huge. Symbols, motifs, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, religion's great. Religion's great for writing. I think it adds a lot of depth and realism because even though you don't necessarily have to be religious to understand it, I think just studying religion in general is good for writers. Like, some usually most I think most writers I know find religion to be a super interesting subject, and it is. It's caused a lot of um, it's caused a lot of or there's a lot of cause and effect when it comes to our world with religion, right? So it's always been a big point of contention between religious, non-religious people, and it doesn't really matter where you stand. I think incorporating it into religion, of course, whether you want it to be an allegory or not is up to you. I think allegories tend to make things a little too simple. Um, you know, like I think Tolkien said he didn't like allegories in stories, and how he disliked Narnia because it was a allegory for Christianity, and like the story of like Jesus and Aslan was like Jesus essentially. But that necessarily doesn't have to be a bad thing. I think if it's I read those books when I was a child, so I hardly remember them. I remember the movies better. But and hate me for that if you will. I definitely know one person from school that would hate me for it, but I don't know them super well, but I read one of their essays and it was pretty funny. They got pretty mad at people who like watched the movies based off of certain books, and it was like, oh, but you don't know the books, so like you're less of a fan, you're not as much of a fan as me. But teach their own. Everyone's like, you don't want to alienate people, because it's a good way of learning things. But either way, I'm getting out of off track. So yeah, just religion is great for storytelling. I think I did neglect it quite a bit. I added little things here and there to my first book. My second book probably has a lot better religious themes and whatnot. Not every book needs it, of course, depending on the genre. I find that a lot of romance would probably be a little less romantic with a lot of like religion in it or something. But that's also, someone could disagree with that. I just think it depends on the genre. I think horror, for example, like definitely, thematically that makes sense and whatnot. But like, I don't know, it can work with any story, just depending on what kind of writer you are and what kind of themes you enjoy exploring. Yeah, yeah. But that's all for now. I have a lot of work to do coming up, so I'm gonna just work out right now while I still can. What should I do next? Probably some screenwriting so I don't get gassed out, and then some editing. So yeah, looking good, looking good. I'll see you in a minute. All right, I'm about to work out now. I had to actually delay it a little bit and write some of the script, so I got some pages done. But yeah, so I'm just gonna work out now. It's leg day, so yeah, I'll see you after. Ooh, back here once again in the beanbag. Ooh. So yeah, that's the end of the video. Sort of, I guess. Last little scene of the video. Yeah, we got a decent amount of work done. I'm gonna get some of the books that my mentor recommended. soon. He also recommended some today, mostly authors. He mentioned Hemingway, Steinbeck, so classics, of course. Gotta read up on those. Of course, I think I read one Hemingway book in school. I don't remember which one it was. It wasn't one of the really popular ones, though. It wasn't one of the super known ones. So the ones that I read in school usually is just, I forget, but I'll have to get to it. Steinbeck, I haven't actually read any of Steinbeck's stuff, so I'm behind on that, I suppose. But yeah, no, today's been an interesting day. I'm honestly a little torn. I got some interesting advice in general. I think some like really, really good advice. He always just, he has that experience that was required, production experience. He's very, very realistic. And so I mentioned, I have to start thinking like a 40-year-old man, like a 50-year-old man. And it's not easy. I would say I have quite a lot of life experience. Stuff I don't want to share in general, but I do. I have seen some things. I have gone through some things, and he did say one thing where I've heard this quote before, where this great American writer, I forget the name, but it's well known. If you type this in, you'll find it. Said no one under the age of 35 knows how to write because they haven't lived long enough. And I feel like it's a little extreme of an example. I wouldn't say I don't know how to write. I wouldn't say people my age don't know how to write. I know a lot of writers my age, younger than me, sort of, older than me, barely, and they're fantastic writers. They're fantastic writers. And I would say even I know people who are better writers than my professors, which are like in their 30s and 40s. Not all my professors, I haven't read all their work, but from what I've read so far, like I know some really talented people, and I wouldn't say they don't know how to write, and I would say their life experience is enough to convey a good story. However, I see the point, because he said, as a writer, you have to bleed a lot, and there's this particular saint who said, when you go to heaven, you are asked, do you have any scars? And then most people answer no. And then this angel or someone asks in return, the second question is, was there nothing worth fighting for? I think that's an interesting insight. I think that's really interesting. Just quote and just advice, just experience more life, make mistakes, make the right decisions, do more, experience more. The thing is, life experience does not come equal. So I was a little discouraged, but not that I'm not right, but I don't think people under the age of 35 can't write. There have been people who have written their best stuff before the age of 35, and what if you die by the age of 35, and you've written a lot? No one can say that you couldn't write, because you could write something major, something influential by that age. And I think anyone can. I think anyone can be a writer, because, dude, there's so many people. I feel like most of the world's population could be a phenomenal, 1% out of half of the world's population. Because if you think about it, dude, isn't it half of the world's population, or a third, lives in poverty? What kind of stories do you think these people have? They have amazing, stories of overcoming terrible things, just beating the odds. You can't say they don't have the experience to tell a good story. But when it comes to Western people, I see the quote applying so much more. Now, this applies to me as well, I suppose.
But I think that it's more nuanced. He made a sweeping generalization because it's a good reminder of you're not actually as good as you are, as you think you are. You know, there's always more to do. Even if you're good, even if you have a lot of strengths, there are ways in which you lack. So you need to keep going. You can't overly compliment yourself. You can't let people get to your head that you're good. You have nothing to improve on. There's never there's never a point where you have nothing to improve on. It doesn't matter even if you've been writing for 50 years. There are improvements that could be made. There will never like and that one of my videos that I titled imperfections are perfection. You will never be perfect, right? So that's what I meant. You will never actually be perfect, but there will always be improvements to be made. Because the more improvements you make, it's not necessarily that the fewer mistakes you make. You make different mistakes all the time. Even if you're a pro, you make beginner mistakes sometimes. Everyone has a weakness, and they change often. You can make a weakness into your strength. That's something my mentor actually said himself. There are strengths and weaknesses because you can turn them around. When you spot them, there's more to work with. You know, it's better to know your weaknesses than to simply have them without knowing. Because even then, even if you really disagree on something, at least you're aware that you have this kink in your work that there's something there. Now, of course, writing is as objective as it could be. It's equally subjective. So, what one person likes, it's all most of it, other than the technical stuff. Even a lot of the creative stuff is technical, right? There's a kind of black and white, what's good, what's bad. But a lot of it is subjective, and so one person's opinion, so I that's why I think it confused me at first, but that's what I'm understanding is there's fact which he has just stated over and over again. There's these very, very good, powerful facts that resonate with me now, and like I loop them in my head to make sure I don't make these mistakes over and over again. It's just that I think there's nuance I should take or I should process when taking in advice. I think sometimes I take it too literally, and then I'm like, oh, so I'm not even a writer, and that's the weird thing where no, you are a writer. That's not what he meant. You are a writer. Anyone who simply writes is a writer. Arguably, I'm not an author. I mean, even though technically the definition of like an author is someone who has finished a work, it's still, in publishing, for example, I'm not exactly an author yet until I'm published, so that makes sense. But I am a writer, right? Anyone who writes often is a writer, and often, like, I mean, it can vary between people, but I would say often is, I don't know, at least once a week. Because if you're making the effort, if you're super busy, if you have a whole life that you've established and you still make the effort to write because that's a passion of yours, once a week is acceptable, man. And there are gaps, of course. Like there have been gaps where I call myself a writer, but I haven't written anything towards my novel, for example, for a month or 2 months, and I just fucked around with other stuff in the background. That still makes me a writer. I still thought about it every single day. And thinking and doing are very different things. But yeah, you're still a writer. You're still a writer, and you can be a good one too. I think also the definition of what a great writer, what an amazing, like a brilliant writer is varies. So yeah, imperfections are perfections. Just remember that over and over, because at the end of the day, it's your opinion that matters the most. It's the writer's opinion of his own work. You have to write what you like. If you like the pacing, if you like the structure, if everything works for you, at the end of the day, that's what it is, man. That's what it is, because someone else will share your opinion. Now, sure, if most people don't share your opinion, there may be something wrong, right? if you get 1 star, 2 star reviews often, there's something to revise. But if you're getting a mix, if you're in the middle, that means you're appealing to like a more niche audience. And then if you get mostly 5 stars, mostly 4 stars, then you're doing a decent job in general, and you're objectively good. So it's a difficult thing, man. It's a difficult career to pursue. It's a difficult hobby even. So that's one thing I think us writers have to deal with, is just perception and whatnot. As long as you're dedicated, though, as long as you write every day. No, you don't have to write every day, but like if you do write every day, like you're bound to get better in some way, like 1% even, or even 0.5%, just 0.1%. That's still progress. And yeah, editing also makes all the difference. If you have to edit, you can't submit a first draft and call that a novel. I mean, it is like the first draft of a novel, but it's not a completed novel, right? Like even though you have it all down, there's so many mistakes too. Oh my god, someone who's never had their work edited would have no clue. That's the thing. Like, oh man, if you've never had your work edited before, especially line edited, oh man, you don't know how bad your grammar is. You can pride yourself in your grammar all you want until you get that first edit back. It's funny. It's so funny. And editors have a really good sense of humor, honestly. Yeah, my editor was hilarious. I think he did a great job with my first novel. And he was just super like insightful too. Like he was just like, because I wrote that book when I was 17. I started it when I was like 16. So there are certain things I just didn't know, right? Like I hadn't even gone to college for writing back then, and not that you have to. I would recommend not to a lot of the time, depending on what you want to do. But yeah, if you want to be a novelist, unless it's your whole life, like me, where like you're willing to dedicate most of your free time to it, then perhaps don't go that way. Don't just like fully immerse yourself into a program if you're not super dedicated, because after 4 years you might start to hate it and then realize you actually don't have the grit for it, and that's totally acceptable, man. So yeah, but that's that. You just gotta get through it. Not an easy field to get through. Not stable. If you're on the average side, which when you think of the bell curve, it represents most things, right? So if you're in the middle of the bell curve, yeah, it's not going to be easy, that's for sure. And you of course you don't want to be on the bottom side either, right? You want to be closer to the top side, but only some people can get there, and we all try when we're super immersed in the field. We all try to get there. And hopefully we all will, right? Hopefully we all, at least those who are truly dedicated. The people I know, for example, super dedicated people, man, they definitely deserve that success coming their way. So anyway, day 26 done. Another pretty good day. So I'm gonna just get back to you tomorrow with that 200K. So I'm very happy to get there, man. It's a big milestone. My second time crossing that number. I guess this is my third time really crossing 100K too. So every 1,000, every 100, every dozen numbers is my second record coming, because my first book crossed 200K. My second was at 102K. And then my short story collection is at 97K. So yeah, this one's big. It's really huge. Honestly, I've been conserving that word count. I've been really trimming down on like just my use, like in my first draft of I just use descriptions and whatnot, but I'll justify that tomorrow. I'll talk about it tomorrow. That's it for today. I'm gonna get back to relaxing with my girlfriend. So yeah, night. See ya.